Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive pop with Danny Limelight, United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance blog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Bobby.
This is Lois Brain here, and I'm advising you to do yourself a favor and watch the Alliance Guys podcast.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby. What is up, everybody? And this is a special episode of the Alliance Blog podcast. With me today is Southern California independent wrestling standout, Honest John, sometimes known as Joniston. You've seen him recently. Fans of our show have seen him on Championship Wrestling as part of the, used to be part of the institution. And then also most recently challenging EC3 for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship. And I'm talking about Honest John. Again, thanks for taking some time out of your busy schedule to be with us today. Appreciate you being here. How are you this afternoon?
I'm doing well. I'm a little bit tired. I thank you for that introduction. You make me feel all nice and like there's a bunch of butterflies in my stomach now. I'm blushing. I'm like, oh.
You know what's funny is one of my dearest, bestest friends, a couple of years ago, he knows how much I'm into wrestling. A couple of years ago, him and his wife were in Rancho Cucamonga for the Cinco de Mayo show that Master Republic was doing. And he saw your act with Jarrell and instantly fell in love with you guys and was like, wow, that's incredible. Both those guys should be signed. And he watches, a little bit of wrestling, but he was just so enamored with your guys' shtick and everything else. And then the next show that he went to was the Pollo Del Mar wrestling event that happened out in Palm Springs during Pride last year. And I dragged him and his wife to that event, and he got to see you again, and he was so stoked. And so much so that in February of this year at a Championship Wrestling from Hollywood taping, I picked up one of your shirts and bought it for him just because I knew how much of a fan he was of yours. So out of everyone else out there in the world, just know that Joe Christopher is a huge Honest John fan.
Well, wow, Joe Christopher. Well, you know that I'm a big Joe Christopher fan now as well. Especially if you buy my shirts. Hey, if you buy my shirts, that means you're one of my peeps. You're one of my people.
Well, I bought your shirt, so basically I indoctrinated him into your people. So, but yeah, I mean, you are a guy, and I'm not trying to sound like a stalker or anything, but I find myself at all these wrestling shows because I go to a lot of them, and you're there. And it's not like I'm doing it on purpose, but like you're going back to Pollo Del Mar. Pollo's a friend of the show. I wanted to support Pollo and their efforts that they were doing out in Palm Springs. So I was thrilled to be at that show. And then you were really the only person I knew on the card, and you and Ashton Starr. And then I would see you at the Valley Wrestling Connection shows. I've known Jarrell for a long time, so I like to support him as well. And then seeing you on those cards. And then, of course, your time in Championship Wrestling from Hollywood. And it seems like everywhere I look, you're wrestling on that card. How did you become like the most popular person in Southern California? It seems like you're everywhere.
So let me break it down for you. I'm actually stalking you. That's actually what's going on. I figure out what shows you're going to, and I go, I want to be on those shows just to give them a big old surprise. I'm surprised you don't advertise.
Well, I do. It's all on social media. Just got to follow at the Alliance blog. Yeah, so that's all right. Cool. Cut me off guard with that answer. Good job.
But no, hey, I don't know. I'm just a hustler that likes to go wrestle and do things. And I just happen to, like I said, I'm surprised no one advertises because when I get there, people are like, oh, shoot, it's him. It's Honest John. He's the best. He's the greatest. And, I can't deny those people. They're the ones to give me their opinions, and their opinions of me are I'm kind of cool. So, hey.
I'm a guy that does travel a lot, and I go to see wrestling wherever I go. Like this past weekend, I was in San Francisco, went to the West Coast Pro Wrestling show. A couple weeks ago, I was in Dallas, Texas, and I went to the NWA's Crockett Cup in Forney, Texas. And the reason why I bring that up is I am a huge proponent of the NWA. A lot of our content on this channel is for NWA fans. You recently stepped in the ring with EC3, the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion, and getting to witness you in that environment, I kind of feel like that was one of your more higher profile matches. You can correct me if I'm wrong. And by contrast, and I'm not trying to tear down anybody else, but the match that you had with EC3 was very simple in its storytelling. And not simple in the match. The complexity of the match was a very entertaining match, but it was very simple. And it told a good story. You and EC3 both connected with the fans that were in attendance. And there was a lot of people there, and it felt very good. And contrarily, I was in Forney, Texas, where Sam Adonis, who I have nothing but the most respect for, a Lucha Libre AAA star, took on EC3, and I felt like he didn't connect with the audience as well as you did in Lake Elsinore. The match itself kind of felt mailed in, kind of rushed. And again, I'm not trying to tear him down, but I'm trying to pick you up. Your match with EC3, I felt, was a much bigger match than the one that Sam Adonis had. Number one, props to you. Number two, how do you prepare for a match with somebody like an EC3, somebody you have never stepped in the ring with before, and maybe even grew up watching on TV?
So I think the reason that match might have felt a bit more, at least intriguing, was that weekend we had a weekend of shows, and I was on every single show. So those fans, those people there had seen me wrestle, get beat up, get thrown through the absolute ringer, because that Friday I wrestled San Diego's own Tortuga. Then I wrestled Mecha Wolf, who's a big name over not just in Mexico, all throughout, the states and everything.
We're big Mecha Wolf fans here on this show too.
Absolutely, he's a fucking superstar. Ooh, can I curse? I actually let him slip.
Absolutely, 100%.
Oh, thank God. Okay, cool. Because I felt so bad. I thought we were about to have to put me on a blacklist, black out the screen or something, go to a technical difficult, because may have let one slip. Those happen from occasion. And watching my stuff, you'll see me slip a little bit here and there when I say those things. But I got put through the ringer, and as you can probably see, and I saw on the little on the thumbnail, you can see my ribs are taped up. I'm beat up. I'm devastated. I'm destroyed. Yeah, I'm still going against EC3 for that NWA World's title, which he made the announcement during the match. So I think it's probably kind of unfair to compare the two matches of mine and Sam Adonis's, just because of that. Mine already kind of had that pre-established story. You were able to like kind of go through the pains and woes with me up until that moment. Whereas Sam Adonis, and it's just me going based off what I was just told, probably was just an exhibition match that just happened to be for the title, so there wasn't as much stakes involved. I'm pretty sure it was a very good match. It was probably a very, very good match, because EC3 is phenomenal and Sam Adonis is also phenomenal. But I think just the stakes involved with my portion probably made it more so something to chew on, a bit more to really latch on to, especially if you're there every single day.
Let me give you more props then, because obviously you're not taking the hint. When I was there at the Valley Wrestling Connection show in, what city was that? Paris, and you took on Enzo Amore, the artist formerly known as Enzo Amore. Again, the crowd was so connected to that match. Now, again, he's a superstar. He's a former WWE guy, former WWE Cruiserweight champion. A lot of accolades to throw at Enzo Amore, but again, you connect with the fans, you get that momentum going, whether it was there or at Championship Wrestling from Hollywood, where your role was a little bit more diminished. You weren't the superstar, but you were more like the sidekick. But even in those matches, you had like the fans connecting with you, and I think that's really important in a pro wrestling match. I'm sure you know that is. Everywhere I've seen you wrestle, I see a connection, a deep connection with the audience, and so you can you can circumvent that and say, "Oh, they saw me for 3 days." But I'm telling you, as a spectator, as someone who watches wrestling and talks about it for fun, I feel like you do a very good job of connecting with the audience, and that's something that you can't really teach. It's something you just kind of have to learn through the process of doing it, and I think you do it very well.
Well, thank you for that. That is very much appreciative. I think my main key, and this is, and if whoever's listening, you can steal this from me too, so y'all can become super dope like me. Um, I let people in, if that makes sense. I
Yeah,
let people see me be vulnerable. I'm not trying to hide anything from the people. Like, yes, I am honest, John, but at the same time, that's not a gimmick. That's not just a throwaway line. That's not something you can get rid of. That's kind of who I am. I'm being honest with you, and whether you like it or not. And all my pain, all my woes, all my highs and all my lows, that's truly what I feel in that moment. That's truly what I feel all the time. And I'm going to let you in and let you see exactly who I am. And if you like it, you do. And if you don't, you don't. But at the end of the day, that's just kind of how it goes, right? And
absolutely.
all the best artists, all the best, musicians, painters, actors, they let you see their vulnerabilities. They let you see who they are as people. They'll bring you in, and you can feel every emotion. And I feel like at the very least, I kind of tap into that because I'll use an example. I was watching something recently, and they hit the nail on the head. Kurt Cobain, right? Wasn't
Yeah.
the best singer, wasn't the best guitarist. He was good, but he wasn't the best. But with enough passion and enough wants, people are willing to let certain things slide to the side, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah.
He's a little pitchy, but you can hear the love and the passion he has for it in his voice and what he's doing. And I feel like I kind of grasped that. I'm not the best. I'm definitely not the best in the ring. I'm not the best high flyer. I'm not the best technician. I'm not the tallest. I'm not the strongest. I'm not the buffest. You can go down all up and down. We'll just keep it. We'll keep the ratio small. All up and down the West Coast, SoCal. There's people taller than me. There's people buffer than me. There's people that can do the craziest, most intricate things. But if there's one thing I probably have more than anybody else on this side of the coast, at the very least, is probably the passion. You can put my passion against anybody else's, and I'll match theirs, if not go beyond theirs. And that's not me being over egotistical, pat myself in the back too hard. It's just me spinning it the way I see it. And I feel like in this business, in this industry, if you don't believe that you're the most passionate, most best thing that you can be, whether it's, you know, making that connection or whatever the case may be, you're in it for the wrong reasons then. Because I'm in it to become the best at anything I can be. I can be humble and give everyone else their flowers and tell everybody that they're better than me at this. And that's true. That's the honest to goodness truth. Like I said, the moment you're the master is the moment you get out of the business, because then you're not learning no more. But at the same time, I want to keep learning. I want to keep doing these things. I want people to feel exactly how I feel. I want them to come along with me through this journey. And if it that's where my passion lies. And whether it's the crazy stuff that I do, or the intricacies of what I say, or when I grab the mic, I want them to listen. I want them to understand exactly what I'm trying to get across, my points, if that makes sense.
One of the viewers in the chat referred to you as humble John, which I think is how I'm going to affectionately refer to you when I see you in person. But uh, let's go back a few steps here. Let's talk about how you became Honest John, and what was the genesis of Honest John. A lot of wrestlers grew up watching wrestling. Was that the case for you? Did you grow up watching pro wrestling?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I was the kid that was too poor to afford any sort of pay-per-views or wrestling, so I'd go find the black and white channels that were very scrambled, trying to watch Backlash 2000 when I was like 4, on like the most like scrambled, pixelated thing ever, and thinking it was the greatest night of my life. Being able to watch a little bit of, I think it was like I think it was the the three-way ladder match, right? Dudley's,
Okay.
Hardy's, and with
The
Edge and Christian. Yeah,
TLC
it was
match, right?
scrambling black and white. Yeah, they won, I think, SummerSlam, the first one. Yeah,
I think you're
it
right.
was that
Yeah.
one. Yeah, I remember like just all I remember is just seeing the match card, and it was so scrambled and blurry and horrific to watch. But I was also the type of kid that would wait all the way till the Sunday before Raw, so I could watch last week's Raw on the Spanish channel, on like Telemundo. That would just be like the hour and a half version of it, be the short version of it, and I'd always be a week behind. But I'd always make sure I'd watch anything involving wrestling. I don't know. It captured my imagination. It captured my my everything. I don't know. Something about it.
So growing up, similarly, like I would watch any wrestling that I could. I'm a little bit older than you, maybe a lot of bit older than you, but I grew up in the '80s, and we were one of the first families to get cable in the neighborhood. So, it would be like the WWE Superstars or the Sunday edition of Superstars, whatever that was, the Challenge, I guess. It would be Glow Wrestling. It would be Telemundo watching Lucha Libre. It would be uh, NWA programming on TBS. It would be World Class Wrestling on ESPN. I would watch whatever I could. So I totally understand that desire, that pursuit of pro wrestling. Your world must have changed quite significantly with the advent of YouTube and being able to see all of that content readily available at your fingertips. Through technology. Did you have the opportunity to grow up watching wrestling on YouTube, or was that a little bit beyond where you were at?
So what really got so YouTube and the wrestling, it was still at a time where people really wouldn't post full matches or really any clips, because this is like with the advent of YouTube was what, oh 07, oh
Yeah,
06, somewhere around there.
yeah, it's about right.
So all of my like watching of professional wrestling and all that fun stuff was not YouTube, but the thing that Google had before they bought YouTube was like Google Video.
Okay,
People would upload full matches, full on shows, full on everything. It was that in Daily Motion. I don't know if Daily Motion is still going, but they would upload everything. And if I couldn't find anything there, I'd get DVDs, and I wouldn't look for like the pay-per-view DVDs. I would look for the compilation DVDs. There was one that came out in like 2009 called the Ladder Match compilation, right? Or if I was gonna get a pay-per-view DVD, I'd make sure it have not just the pay-per-view, but it had all the extras. It had all the matches from the Raw Go Home show and the SmackDown Go Home show. It had all these extra stuff that I could watch and actually really buy it into. I loved the Undertaker 20-year DVD, I think it was. It came out, it was only at Walmart, and I made sure to go grab that. I made sure to get every content of wrestling imaginable growing up, because I just couldn't get enough. Whether it was DVDs, Blu-rays, VHSs, tapes, recorded tapes, the CDs, the music,
yeah,
the WWF the music, or one of my favorite CDs that I really burned out was the WWE original CD, because it was the only way you can get John Cena's Basic Thugonomics theme, and I was a huge Cena fan, especially back then.
that's
Um,
amazing.
like that song and the Rey Mysterio song were like my two favorite songs on there. I ran my CD player out listening to those, and then I'd get the
Were,
video games. The video games were like my stuff back then.
were you? I guess tape trading was something that was ancient and archaic by the time you were old enough to kind of get involved with stuff like that. You never did tape trading, did you?
Uh, DVD trading, if that
Well,
counts.
that's fair. We would, so just to give you an idea, like there was a point in time at Memphis Championship Wrestling where Brian Danielson and Spanky, Brian Kendrick, and Lance Cade were all training under Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy, and all three of them got signed to work with Memphis Championship Wrestling. But back then, the only way you could watch Memphis Championship Wrestling was to live in Memphis. So, people would tape those matches, and then you would tape your local wrestling promotion, whether for us it was like XPW or UPW. You would record those matches and you'd get a hold of somebody and you'd send tapes back and forth. So you'd get these low class, really shoddy tracking, pixelated, terribly looking videos, but you'd get to see like, oh, that's Brian Kendrick. We back then we called him Spanky. That's Spanky, and he was a hot deal on the Indies before he got with Memphis Championship Wrestling, and then even became a bigger deal after that. So it was kind of cool to see that progress. Sucks that you didn't get to see that, being such a big fan of the sport of professional wrestling, but I'm sure DVD trading offered some similar situations to that.
In the time period where it was kind of like burn CDs, burn DVDs,
Yeah.
Links you would get and download from places like LimeWire and stuff. You could probably find systems, those sites. You could probably find some certain things and everything, or the classic, someone brought a camcorder to a live event or something and they uploaded it, or they ripped it through the computer and put it on some very janky website that probably gave you a million viruses, but goodness gracious, you were on there and you're watching your favorite wrestling going on. You were taking those risks. The antivirus wasn't so strong back then, but man, you were jumping through loops and hoops just to, I don't know, see your favorite wrestler wrestle.
McAfee be damned, I'm going to see that Taka Michinoku match.
You damn right. If it's Taka Michinoku, crazy.
So
Taka Michinoku, great sauce. There we go. That's my favorite match from Canadian Stampede. Those little.
So was that your guy? Was Taka your guy? That was just a pool. I hadn't had just a guess.
Taka Michinoku was one of my guys. So you always have those guys that are like, they're not the big name guys. They're not the Stone Colds or the Rocks or what have you. But you have those guys who are kind of like, you know what? I really like these people. And these are like, they always hovered around the mid card, low card, upper mid card, etc. like that, right? My guys were always the Taka Michinokus, Crash Hollies, the Hurricanes, those type of cats. Those are always, my dudes, my guys. Scotty Too Hottie. I love Scotty. He was my favorite out of all the Too Cool, for example. But those that kind of range of people were my favorites.
So was it basically the guys that you could see like on Heat, like on Sunday Night Heat?
Yeah, like Heat, Velocity. Just the thing with them is that if you remember, a lot of Raw and SmackDown, especially back then, were kind of, you wouldn't see the main cats wrestle unless they were on pay-per-view. You wouldn't see them actually, they'd get on, they'd talk, they'd fight a little bit, and then they get broken apart, and then you guys will face each other on the pay-per-view this Sunday. Well, being a broke boy, I didn't have the ability to watch the pay-per-views until 6 months down the road and the DVD or VHS came out. So if I really wanted to see wrestling, I had to watch, the mid-card guys, the Velocity, the Heat guy. So, Taka Michinoku, light heavyweight champion, going through, having amazing light heavyweight matches. Crash Holly in his entire, the hardcore title run. Too Cool, Sky Duhati, tag team,
Rikishi, all that good stuff.
Mm-hmm. Hurricane. I'm a huge Hurricane fan. I love the Hurricane. When he was the Cruiserweight champion in 2007 and held it for that entire time, he was going out having great matches just on SmackDown for no reason. He would go out there and just have 10 to 15 minute, felt like classics on SmackDown for just because he could. And it was always amazing to me. It always captured me.
So who was the guy that put it in your ear that maybe you wanted to become a pro wrestler? Was there someone that you were emulating or someone you wanted to emulate that initially got you into pro wrestling?
When I was a kid, it was obviously the Stone Colds and the Rocks. Those were the ones that, back when I was 9 years old, Stone Cold Rock and John Cena. John Cena was my dude. Like, I was going through my old yearbooks, my old pictures and everything as a kid, and I'm 2002, 2003 over there throwing up the thugonomic sign with my stupid hands. You know, the two pinkies pointed up thing he used to do.
Yeah.
Like I'm over there ruining family photos doing my John Cena pose.
Amazing. That's awesome. So Cena was your
But
guy.
as I got, he was my guy. Like when he first won the title in WrestleMania 21, the SmackDown after that was in Anaheim. It was either Anaheim or Staples Center. It was Staples Center.
Okay.
And he goes into the crowd. If you go and watch that episode, you can see a little Honest John going insane that John Cena was jumping in the crowd, and he's going to go see him in person. Oh my God, he's holding the title up. It was the first night he debuted. I want to say Time Is Now, right? You can see me. I'm wearing a red sweatshirt. I'm right there, excited that my hero is standing in front of me. Like, 2005 was a crazy year for young me.
Yeah, no, that's awesome, man. That's really cool that you had that moment. I guess fast forward a little bit. So, for me, I never dreamed that I would be a pro wrestler, and I never went that route. But I have more fun talking about it. But for someone like you to make that conscious decision, like, hey, you know what? I think I want to do this. I think I want to step into the ring and become a pro wrestler. What was the moment that triggered for you, and then how did you go about making that a reality?
Daniel Bryan.
That's a great answer.
When I saw, so to give a little backstory, what is the thing you think of when you think of a professional wrestler? You think of not just the Hulk Hogan's, you think Rock, you think Austin, you think big, tall, giant, muscle-bound guys. When I was 8, cool. All my created characters on the video games were my self-insert, what I thought I was going to be when I was an adult. 6'3" jacked muscles doing choke slams, power bombs, and 450 splashes. Because that's just how it is when you're young. And then I got to be an adult, and as life started making itself a reality, come to find out I'm not 6'4", and I'm not the guy that's giving power bombs. And I'm like, shoot,
Darn.
this is kind of rough.
Yeah.
And then I saw this guy on NXT, the original NXT, the game show NXT, and I'm like, wait a second, that guy, he's kind of like my height, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's kind of around that area, huh? Okay. Oh, he's very similar to. This guy's my hero. He's my dude. So because I always loved, if we're going to talk about the smaller wrestler, right? I loved Eddie Guerrero's, the Rey Mysterios, the Jerichos, etc. Shoot, all my favorite mid-card guys that I just mentioned earlier were all a little smaller guys.
Right.
But for some reason, they didn't capture me like Brian did. Something about Brian captured me. Like, and I was like, if he can do it, maybe I can do it. Because especially at that time. So if you go back and look at that time period, like I said, you had Jericho, but Jericho's already been established. He's had all that stuff going on with him, and we see Brian. He's called a nerd. Well, I was a little bit of a nerd too, right? Like back then, I was into comic books. I was into all that stuff. If I was growing up now, let's put it in perspective. If I was growing up now with all the nerdy, comic booky, video game things you see on WWE, AEW, New Japan, all those wrestling companies that are super into that kind of stuff now, I'd be on cloud 9. But back then, oh hell no, nah. You got none of that. It was like, nope, this is lame. That's stupid. And then you had that one guy that was like, you know what? Michael Cole's shitting on him, calling him a nerd and everything. I'm like, wait a minute, I am too. That's my guy. And he's smaller and he's like me. hell yeah, he just wants to be good. I want to be good. You know what? And then I was there for his entire run all the way up until like WrestleMania 30. Like that WrestleMania 30 cemented into my brain of I need to do this. I need to be a pro wrestler because this little nerdy hairy mother trucker, he got it. He did it. And if my nerdy ass can do it, like I can do it then, right? I can become this wrestler. I can do it. He ain't jacked. He ain't 8 feet tall.
Right.
He's me. He's me. You know, not knowing the fact that he also went through like 15 years of just being wrestling around the entire world.
Well,
But
that was
still, it was
that was
like,
going to be. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, but that's still my guy. You know, like looking at him, like that's my dude at the end. So
My next question for you is: at what point did you discover the indies? Were you still a fan, or was that when you started training that you realized that there was a whole subculture of pro wrestling that you were about to tap into?
So I kind of knew the indies because of the fascination with Brian. Right? I
Okay.
wanted to see more of what he did, especially in that time period where he got fired.
Oh
So
yeah.
I looked up and I started just by looking at what he was doing after WWE and saying, oh wait, there's these other things, oh whoa, what's New Japan Pro Wrestling, right? Because I saw his match from PWG 100 with Omega, where they had the thumb wrestling in between during the match, and they did the
Yeah.
John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt thing, and I was like, oh, this Kenny Omega guy is doing Hadokens. I love Street Fighter. What is he doing? Wait, what is DDT?
Right.
What is New Japan? What is whoa? What really is ROH? Like I heard about it, like through the annals of like TNA and stuff. But like, what is all of this? Whoa! And then the entire world of pro wrestling just exploded. I'm like, okay, there's more to this than just WWE. And then I got like, I knew there was stuff out there thanks to Telemundo and Lucha Libre and everything like that, just talking about it. But I didn't realize it was this much. And this was like 20, what, 11? And that was the advent of just diving headfirst into YouTubes and Google and just seeing every little piece of wrestling content I could. Like that was when I really got fixated on it. That's when I got to all the video games and I'm like, I'm gonna download Tanahashi on SmackDown versus Raw and stuff like that. I want to have all these bangers on this game because I'm just like, oh, I'm balls deep in this wrestling now.
It's funny when you bring that up because like I said, I'm a little bit older than you, so like I ventured into the world of independent wrestling. Uh, we had a company come to my high school, and they put on a show in our gym, and it was actually a fundraiser for our wrestling team. So that was kind of cool to be a part of that and experience that. But like my first real indie show was the Hardy Boys were appearing for a promotion called UPW, which if you remember, like that's where John Cena came from. That's where Samoa Joe got his first bit of notoriety. And so we went to go see the Hardy Boys and were introduced to all these other wrestlers and instantly fell in love with independent wrestling. And then from there, it was like, you know, you're talking about PWG, but we were at Rev Pro. We were at, we were at all these really shitty indie promotions, but like there were good ones too mixed in there. But like, gosh, I remember being at so many bad shows too. And obviously the quality level is so much better now, but I think you could appreciate, just even 10 years ago, how bad it was at some points. And so to see wrestling as it's blossoming now, and there's, especially here in Southern California, we have a lot of really solid wrestling promotions, and even the ones that aren't super popular are still like they're producing good wrestling. And I think that's pretty awesome. One of the viewers in the chat threw out this question, so I want to credit them, Zilla, and their questions for you were: how long have you been wrestling, and when did you start wrestling? We were working our way there, but Zilla wants to get to the point.
Once you get to the juicy parts.
Yeah, right.
What do you consider starting?
So
Is
I
it
guess
when I started training or when I had the first match in front of people?
I would say when you started training, because that's when everything changes, right? Because up until that point, you're still just a spectator. But the minute you get into the ring and you start training, it's a very different world, and you're getting exposure into different things that you never would have seen otherwise. So I would say, when did you start training, and where did you start training?
So I'll answer the second one because that leads into the first one. So when I was around 17, I was just, I was still in high school. Growing up, I had done athletics and everything. And by the time I was 17, I had been out of football for about a year and a half. Grades were slipping. And in football, I was a linebacker. I was,
Okay.
so I was doing this stuff to be a linebacker. And back in the day, they'd be like, if you want to get bigger, you eat everything, right? Eat whatever you want. You go home and you eat two or three cheeseburgers, put on all that weight, be the best linebacker you can be, right?
Right.
So I got out of football and I kept doing that. I kept eating like that. But for some reason, this wrestling thing kept being on the back of my brain. Because my grades were slipping, I tried to go for amateur wrestling. They said I needed to be a 2.5. I was like, okay, I'll just skip that portion, go straight to pro wrestling.
Sure.
I looked up online and I looked up pro wrestling school. So I'm like, I'll just get started now. I look up, and the very first school that came up was the Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy, right? The Santino Brothers School.
Right.
And I was like, oh, shoot, this is a thing that exists. Sweet, cool. And then I realized it was about 3.5 to 4 hours away from where I lived. And at the time, I didn't have a car, so I was very much like, oof, I'm not gonna be able to go there.
Yeah.
Right underneath that was the Jesse Hernandez School of Hard Knocks, which was 30 minutes away. And I'm like, oh, that is so much more doable. And you click on the website, and I don't know if it's the same anymore, but you see pictures of Shawn Michaels at the school and Chris Jericho and all these amazing wrestlers, and I'm like, that's the place I want to get to. And I'm 17 and I'm fucking super chubby. I get to the school. My stepdad takes me, and I'm seeing all these hard drills, these exercises, like CrossFit type style, like workouts.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there for the entire session. I'm 17. And I look at my stepdad. He looks at me and he tells me, I'll pay for this entire thing if you're so serious and dead set on it. And I look him dead in his eyes and I tell him, I am, but I'm not ready for that. I'm not physically ready for any of that. So I swallowed my pride, walked out, spent the next 3 years getting into shape, because in my brain, a wrestler is still that jacked muscles, athletic, whatever, what have you. So I spent 3 to 4 years, but I always had in the back of my mind, I'm going to go back there. I'm going to walk in those doors and I'm going to sign up on my own accord. I'm going to make sure I have everything set and ready. So that was 2012. It took me about 4 years to get physically, financially, and everything mentally ready. I walk in the Jesse Hernandez School of Hard Knocks, 2017. I was 21 at that time. I signed up. He let me go through. Took my first, I think he had me run the ropes. I took a bump, whatever. In so much pain, so much horrific bumping pain. Because when it's the first time, you feel fine, and then you don't, because it's such an unnatural thing to fall. You want to catch yourself. But I was so determined. I was like, it was that type of excitement you get when you walk into Disneyland, right? You're like, whoa, what is this? This is awesome. That's that thing. I'm stepping into this ring. Whoa. And there's people, especially when you walk into a school. I'm pretty sure you've done your fair share of walking into a school or something like that. And there's people in the ring doing amazing drills, and they're doing, you see them on reels nowadays, like of just doing great, crazy little sequences and spots and doing flips and headlocks and scoop slams and throws and backflips and hurricane ranas. You're like, whoa, that is so awesome. And I walked in, didn't know what the hell I was doing. I went in there, did the crazy little cardio CrossFit drills, and then I went and I horrifyingly ran those ropes, but I kept doing it and I kept at it. And then day 2 happened and I was completely sore. I felt like RoboCop. I couldn't move. I was so beat up, but God, man, I wanted more. And after that, it was off to the races. So sorry for talking your ear off, but
No, man,
kinda how
that's
it goes.
great. I love to hear it. You said early on about passion, and it's clearly that you're passionate about what you do because you're speaking with such, passion about just walking through your first days. I think that's awesome. And you mentioned that you didn't wrestle in high school, and one of the guys in the chat, Jeremy, says, "Wait, he didn't wrestle in school." Had me fooled the way he squares up. I am somebody that wrestled in high school, and I was never any good at it. And I did all those dog shit drills, and I remember just getting blown up. I also did football, and I was terrible at that as well. And I was always getting beaten up in football. So I kind of have an idea of what you went through. Not the same, obviously, but an idea of what it's like when you step into that school and you're doing these things that your body's telling you, hey, this isn't a good idea, and you're still going through with it and putting yourself through that. And it kind of, the way you describe it reminded me of doing the 2-a-days during Hell Week and just getting your body to get into that into shape for wrestling, but doing these things that, like, traditionally as a regular person walking down the street, you don't need to know how to fall properly, but in wrestling, that's something that you drill and drill and drill and drill, or hitting the steel ropes and bouncing off ropes and getting welts on your side and on your lower back, running those kind of drills. So I can't empathize because I didn't actually do it, but I kind of understand how that went. What made you go back for day 2 and day 3 and day 4 and continuously to go, even though you were getting your body beaten up so bad?
Because it's something I wanted to do. I can't think of anything deeper than this is the thing. I think probably because I spent that 3 to 4 years getting myself ready for this. It's that mentality of, I spent so long getting to this point, I'm not turning back now. I've made my decision. This is what I want to do. And I'm not going to just be that person that's just going to come through, okay, I took a bump, that's it. It's like, no, I spent 3 years getting ready to do this thing I love. I've been thinking about this my entire life. I wouldn't have made those kind of weird, stupid, creative characters in the games that had my quote unquote self-insert character name, what I would be called if I was a wrestler. I would have done all that just to be at the doorstep and then just turn around and say, nah, I'm good. Took my bump, it hurts, I'm okay. It's like, no. I've come this far, I can't stop now. I'm the type of person that doesn't want to leave any what ifs, because it's like, man, if I would have turned around at that point, what would have happened? Who knows what could have happened? Why am I gonna stop? I gotta see this through. I spent so long. I just gotta. And then it's that feeling you get where you just can't get enough of it. It, like, the dragon catches you, and you just want to keep getting that. You want a little bit more. You want a little bit more. It's so exhilarating. It's so, you're in the wrestler. I don't know. It's just, I couldn't help myself.
No, that's amazing. And again, I love, like I said, I love the passion. You went from starting training in 2017 after putting it off for 4 years to get in the right mental space, physical space, financial space. You prolonged getting into this thing that you're so passionate about, so you were in the right spot. You go to the house of the School of Hard Knocks, which has produced a lot of stars over the years, and people don't know this, but TJ Perkins, Rocky Romero, two of the names that always come to my head when I think of that school, but also Scorpio Sky. Obviously, Scorpio had training elsewhere, and so did TJ and Rocky, but that's where they got their fundamentals. That's where they started. And EWF also really helped to make Frankie Kazarian more well-known and Christopher Daniels first started his wrestling journey in Southern California at EWF. So like EWF again is one of these historic wrestling promotions in Southern California. It's been around maybe even longer than you've been alive, and I don't mean that to be flippant, but like I think it's been around for like maybe 25 years now, and they've been producing wrestling consistently over those 25 years. And outside of the global pandemic that shut everybody down, EWF is one of these promotions that have not stopped. They just keep going, off the back of Jesse Hernandez and that school. You debuted for, at least according to a cage match, according to cagematch.net, you debuted for EWF on December 1st against Richie Slade in San Bernardino. What was that experience like, stepping into the ring for the first time in front of an audience? Did you have those butterflies getting into the ring, or was it something that felt natural to you?
So, this is my favorite story. I love the debut story because it's such a interesting story. So that show, Richie Slade was scheduled to wrestle Danny Limelight. I was one of the people that were under and more because I was new, and it's one of those just show up to every show with your gear and you may get on because it's that kind of a moment, right? Because usually what they do at the School of Hard Knocks is when they debut people, they put them under a very low-key show, something they can go and they mess up, but it's not at a big event where people really are huge wrestling fans. They're just, it's a party, it's a vacation resort that people just want to come see some entertainment while they're at the lake or something.
Yeah.
But the San Bernardino shows for EWF, especially at the time, were like their bigger shows. It was the ones where like the hardcore, diehard EWF fans usually come through, and they're not the nicest people. Let's put it that way. So
Sure.
They're coming expecting Richie Slade, who they already love, and Danny Limelight, who is fantastic. They hear my music, right? Because I'm Ann Moore. I'm, whatever. You have your gear, kid? You're next.
Yeah.
So to them, they don't know who I am. And then they hear Richie Slade's music. And immediately, oh no. Because in my debut, I'm wearing some green-ass, horrible tights. I have a fedora that was given to me by my grunkle, Jaime. Shout outs to Grunkle Jaime. And I'm just out there, here's this Honest John cat coming out and wrestling Richie Slade. You're not getting Danny Limelight, you're getting Honest John. And, I'm like you can tell, like, if it wasn't for my family being there going, oh my God, it's Jono, it'd be horrible. It'd be awful. So that entire day, I knew who I was wrestling when I got there. I was nervous. I was shaking in my stupid title boots. I was so scared. But Richie Slade, ultimate professional, took care of me, made sure I had a very memorable debut. My first match ever wrestling. And the other reason that it's so memorable to me is that the night prior, I was in a horrific car accident.
Oh, no.
Yeah, so I was in that car accident the morning of the show. My grandmother, may she rest in peace, was talking to me. She says, you do realize if you do this wrestling thing tonight, you have no more say or anything with your car accident. You completely make all that null and void. Whatever issues or anything you may have from the car accident goes away, because then it'll be completely slotted under your wrestling match. Yeah. And I looked her dead in her eyes, and I was like, I know exactly what you're saying, but I busted my ass for years for this moment. I'm not gonna let it slip. I need it to debut. I need to do this match. I've been waiting. I have to. So I go out there, I wrestle Richie Slade to a relatively okay to decent match for a first time ever. It felt like a whole entire movie. Like Friday Night Lights, big shiny spotlights and everything. Yeah. Crowd is going nuts. It's like 50 degrees. It's cold as hell. But man, you never forget your first time, and I've told that story plenty of times, and it's the same every single time.
It's funny. I assumed, based on what I've seen from you, that you did train at Santino Brothers Wrestling Academy, and I mean that as an absolute compliment, by the way. Um, and it's not to take anything away from EWF. I didn't know that you were working with them back then, and I used to run SoCal Uncensored, so that stands for something. But I did I guess you just kind of came into my universe, into my awareness, like in the last few years, mostly through Championship Wrestling. But I've seen, like I said, I've seen you with Master Republic, and I've seen you in a lot of other different various places. Working with EWF is kind of tough because Jesse Hernandez does have that old school approach, and very much kind of. I think the right way to say it is he protects his talent, he protects his youngins, and before giving them the opportunity to go out and ply their trade elsewhere. How long did it take for you working at EWF before you were given the green light to start your travels elsewhere?
3 months.
Oh, that's
So
that's relatively quick.
let me give a little preface here.
Sure.
You can find that match. It's a 3-way at the San Diego Wrestling Academy. It's me, El Primo Henio at the time, known as Hyde, and Jordan Clearwater. That was the first time I stepped foot out of EWF.
Wow.
Yeah. And then about a few months later, I trekked more in the San Diego area, going to shows, just mostly San Diego. I'm a firm believer in when you first debut, you keep your first year kind of within your home promotion,
Right.
the place that you started, because you can work out all the kinks before you fully unveil yourself to the entire world. Um, it's just that I just wanted to wrestle a lot more, and sometimes shows for EWF were 2 to 3 times a month or two
Yeah.
times a month. They usually be in the same weekend. And I was like, man, I want to wrestle again. And I saw, and we talk old school. I saw other people doing other wrestling things, or they'd ask me if I want to come through, and I'd be like, absolutely, I would love to come through, or can I go with you, or that old mentality of hopping in cars and hoping for someone to put you on the show because you have your gear. I did that, and I just happened to just go out anytime there was the opportunity to. But I still stayed relatively close to home for at least that first year.
Was that frowned upon by the office, or were they gave you their blessing?
They didn't know.
Fair enough.
Outside of that first one, they really didn't know.
Okay.
So
Better to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
yeah, and that never really bit me in the butt because I was usually at the very least given. I wasn't treated like crap anywhere I went. Nobody really put me in horrible positions to be looked down, frowned upon. And I think that's the main thing why they're so protective.
Yeah.
Is we all go through the ways and woes of you're new here, we don't know who you are, so we're going to put you in this very low rung position just to see how you do. And so, but just in case you're bad, we don't put any stock into you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. Because even even if you use oh, I was trained here as a as a way to help you get into a better position, there's still enough on both sides where it's like, okay, there's been a lot of great people that came from there, but there's also been a lot of not so great people that came from there. So we'll
Yeah.
put you in an area where you can kind of, if you do well, it'll be noticeable. But if you do bad, we'll know, but the fans won't know, and we just won't use you no more or
Right.
ever again. So it was a lot of those things, and I was always able to kind of make my way through without embarrassing anybody, I guess.
I mean, the way you say that is so nonchalant, but again, and I haven't been to every single match that you've had, obviously, but you've always looked very comfortable and confident in the ring. And for someone of your length of time in the industry, I say that's a huge victory for you, my friend, because there's people who I know for a fact that have been wrestling a hell of a lot longer that still look very, very green when you see them in that ring. And and again, going back to the EC3 match, he's a superstar. He's a guy that was TNA World Champion. He was on heavily featured in TNA wrestling. He's a guy that was on NXT, wrestling at the Riverside Municipal Auditorium. He's a guy who companies have invested millions of dollars in. And you guys had such a phenomenal match, and you did not look lost. You did not look like it didn't look like he was leading you through that match. It very much felt very organic and very natural. And outside of maybe one thing, the matchup was really, really good. And I really I praise you for that, because again, I'm looking at your match histories on Cage Match, and we're talking that your first match was 2018. That just baffles my mind. That means you've been in the business for 6 years, not even 6 years, 6 years in December as an active professional wrestler. And I think in such a short amount of time, you have gotten really, really good. And I mean that in as a compliment. I hope that's how it's coming off. You're very good for someone who's only been in the business for 6 years.
I think it just has to do with just nonstop training and just not stopping as much as I can. No
I'm
matter where it was.
I'm also learning about you that you don't take compliments very well.
I'm very much a person of I'm fine with patting myself on the back and taking compliments, but at the same time, it's just a thing of mine. You can ask anybody who's talked to me. I'm not good at taking compliments. I'm
Yeah.
not. I'm very much a human being that if you say I'm good, well, I guess, but that person over there is cool.
Yeah, well, sure, and
Cooler than me.
well, sure. There's lots of people cooler than you, but there's lots of people cooler than everyone. So, but no, I get it. Being humble, I think, is part of your charm as well, because I have spoken to you, and I'm awkward in public, and I felt really weird after we talked at the Championship Wrestling West Coast Pro Wrestling show at the Irvine Improv, and I'm like, wow, that sounded super awkward and weird. I hope I didn't offend him. And I'm messaging you, and I'm like, yeah, this is better. I'll just message him because it's less awkward that way. But yeah, I'm like, yeah. I even said to you then, like, you had such a terrific match with EC3, and I feel like I can say that because I've seen that guy wrestle enough times, and as a fan of the NWA, and I am a diehard fan. I literally went to Dallas to see the 10 pounds of gold being defended. I was with David Marquez when they went to China to promote Nick Aldis and Colt Cabana. So I feel like I can say with some authority that I've seen a lot worse people in that position that you had and fold and crackle under the pressure. And I felt you looked really good. So I'm not gonna give you any more compliments about it, but I just want to specify that I thought you were really good in that position. And honestly, if the opportunity ever arises again, I hope they wouldn't hesitate to use you in the NWA, because I feel like you have a lot of the tools that they're looking for. Especially they have this junior heavyweight division that is lacking a lot of junior heavyweights, and I think that's of course something that would excel. So if anybody's watching this from the NWA, I'm giving Honest John my thumbs up that he'd be a great addition to your junior heavyweight roster. But
I'm also giving a thumbs up too. I hope they can feel my thumbs up energy.
Yeah, give that thumb up pride, thumb up. Thumb up is maybe not the best word to use. We'll just move on from that. So, like I said, I've been fortunate enough to see you in Mass Republic. I've watched you at Pueblo de Mars Pride of the Desert tournament. I've seen you countless times at Championship Wrestling. What do you consider home? Is it still the Empire Wrestling Federation? Is it Valley Wrestling Connection? Where does Honest John feel at home?
I wouldn't say I have a home. I'm more of a
Okay,
journeyman. I
sure.
just kind of go from place to place. I say if you really want to put a promotion or a place like that, I guess you could say uh, Championship Wrestling. Um, that would probably be the main thing for me, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess at the end of the day, if you really want to put a label on a home, um, yeah, it'd be Championship Wrestling. But I consider myself a freelancer. I go where the work is. I go where it's needed. I'm not a very stationary man, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, and I know, looking up things, I saw that you wrestled in Arizona. I've seen you wrestled in Las Vegas with the Gap House, and really, like, it feels like in every promotion in Southern California, uh, I don't feel like you've discriminated very much. You'll work pretty much, most of those places, all up and down Southern California. So I honestly think that's really cool because I feel like it's all about repetition, right? And you kind of even said that too, that the more that you work, the better that you feel like you're getting in the ring. And it feels like I see you everywhere, which is a high compliment. I do genuinely mean that. What's coming up next for you? I mean, I know with Championship Wrestling, it's kind of been on sabbatical. I know Dave Marquez is working on some big things. I've talked to him in private. I know, uh, you know, they're waiting for something to happen with Championship Wrestling and its return to a regular taping schedule. I know that there's a lot of talk about what they're doing in Texas. Has there been any opportunities or any dialogue between you and Reality Wrestling? Has there been any opportunity or dialogue with you in Memphis? Like, have you had any discussions about trying to get out of Southern California to those promotions that are associated with United Wrestling Network?
I've had conversations, but you know how things go. It's a wait and see. It's it's a wait and see. We'll wait and see on a lot of things. Like I said, I've had conversations. I've talked to people. Not just with those places, but a bunch of other places as well. If this is a industry of you throw everything at the wall and eventually something sticks, something catches on, something grabs, and hopefully, you know, we'll see what happens.
Championship Wrestling from Jeremy asks, have you done any extra work for WWE or AEW when they're in the area?
WWE and AEW, no, but I did a lot of work for New Japan Pro Wrestling. You can see me, like, especially if you go through and watch the Jay White J of USA or US of J challenge. You can see me. I'm like always around the ring. Um, at the Battle of Los Angeles when Mercedes Moné wrestled Willow and she got unfortunately injured, I was at that show. You can see me, holding the ropes open for Mercedes. So while I haven't done a lot of or any extra work for WWE or AEW, because I did that Mercedes Monet hold the ropes open thing, you can
Yeah.
see me on AEW because they use that clip. So I
Well,
guess
then it
I guess
counts.
so. That counts. It counts. 2 for 1.
Hey, Tony, send him a check already. Uh,
I'll take my 5 cents.
right. One of the partnerships that I've seen you a lot with is Jarrell, the vegan Superman, or Enoch, the Enlightened, I guess, is the preferred title when you guys are working together. And again, that's mostly been at the Valley Wrestling Connection, but also with Mass Republic. What brought you and Enoch together? How did you guys form that partnership? And I know after the world title match that partnership might be in peril, but up until that point, you guys were thick as thieves. Is that something that's still going to happen well, I guess maybe don't answer that because I don't want you to spoil anything. But how did you guys get together as a pairing?
So remember the promotion Pandemonium Pro Wrestling?
Yes.
Okay. So we got put together because of Pandemonium Pro Wrestling. There was a event that I couldn't make, so they put Jarrell in my place, and then they put us together, and it was like a match made in heaven.
You guys do a great job of playing off one another, and I have nothing but respect for Jarrell. He knows that. I still call him SoCal Tom Walters. You could ask him about that one of these days. But
Absolutely.
it's 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 really well. It's very. Let me try that again. It's very fun to watch you guys interact, and I never really thought of Jarrell as a promo guy, but as Enoch the Enlightened, he does a phenomenal job of putting you over. And I've heard you on the mic. You definitely don't need someone carrying a stick for you. I've heard you cut promos. You're really good at that as well. But that pairing of you two just seems to work so well. Does anyone else compliment you on that, or is it just weird guys like me?
Hey, you're not weird. You're just inquisitive.
That's right. Damn it.
So I hear it a lot from fans. And I think the reason that is you can tell we're having fun when we're up there.
Absolutely.
And if you have fun, it doesn't matter what you do, but if you're going out there and you're enjoying yourself, that means you're not too worried about what's going on. You're living in the moment. I think everybody else can catch that vibe and be a part of it, whether they want to hate us or they want to love us. Granted, we both are very good at talking smack, and I think when Jarrell's in there with me, he kind of ups his smack talking game to try to, because I'm, as you said, I'm very, very capable on the mic. So he has to up his own level of mic capabilities so we can at least be there with me. So it's not too much of a, oh, why is Jarrell talking for John? John doesn't need it. No, he needs to, it's like when you see Paul Heyman there with Roman Reigns,
Right.
it's not so much, it's like just let Roman talk or whatever. It's they're complimenting each other. They're complimenting each other. What one says, the other goes along with, and vice versa. And I kind of relate me and Jarrell's chemistry to that, where it's very much we bounce off one another, and when we click, when we're on that exact same vibe and the exact same way to go, oh, it's called magic. You put chemistry together, but it's going to be magic too.
Well, there definitely is a little bit of science, a little bit of magic thrown in there because it definitely
a little
works.
Bit of sci-fi.
All right, so let's get to your upcoming schedule. Where can people see you next? Where can they follow you on social media? I have links to most of your socials and to your pro wrestling tees in the video description. But if people want to learn more, if they want to follow you, they want to go to your matches, how can they do that?
So this brings up another thing. You mentioned cage match a lot.
Yeah.
So cage match is missing like 70% of my matches.
Well, I understand that. What sucks is I kind of blame SoCal Uncensored. I blame my former stomping grounds, and it's not like, and it's one guy running the whole site now. So, but in the old days, people would put the results and would send them. The promoters would, or the wrestlers would, or the fans would, and post them on a site like SoCal Uncensored, and then that would be the aggregate feed to a place like Cage Match where they would post all that stuff. But as the written word is kind of a dying breed in this new modern world that we're in, where podcasts and live streams and vlogging have kind of taken the place. So you don't really see that as often as you used to. And so a lot of times, if those results aren't written down somewhere, they don't get reposted elsewhere. So if someone's looking at a guy like you and saying, oh yeah, you've had all these matches, but I know for a fact I've seen you in more places than what's listed on Cage Match. Sorry.
Oh, hey, I will give Cage Match. I'll give Cage Match all the props in the world because there's so many wrestlers in this entire crazy world, and they got to keep track of all of them. So more props to them. But a nice supplement to the cage match is my YouTube, which is at The Only Honest John, which I've started using to not so much as I'm gonna have a YouTube channel and vlog and stuff like that, but it's more just an archive of matches, which is something I started doing, is just uploading matches, and just so people kind of have this dichotomy of here's what Honest John does. To kind of also not just watch the matches, but keep up and understand where I am, not just as a wrestler, but as the Honest John character evolves. Because I kind of keep, yes, the Honest John character, at least especially right now, is at an interesting place, but it's all connected. That's a whole thing. I don't think you have time for me to get deep into that. That's some deep waters.
We'll save that for the next episode.
Yeah, I like to talk a lot. It's especially because once I get really into that kind of stuff, everything will make sense. Everything that all the crazy, cryptic, artistic, whatever you want to call it, avant-garde stuff that I do, post, talk about, say, it'll all make sense. Even more so, it's that kind of thing. I really like getting into the deepest trenches of that kind of stuff, but just like I said, save that for later. But yeah, Only Honest John on YouTube, The Only Honest John on Instagram, TikTok. I have one of those. Social media, The Only Honest John. Everything is all Only Honest John because I'm the only one that matters.
I love it. It works. And so again, schedule. What I mean, this is obviously dated. People are going to listen to this in the next week or so, and then whatever matches you have lined up after that won't matter. But what's coming up now? What's coming up in this moment? Where are you wrestling next?
All right, so let's take this even more. What day is the day that this is being recorded?
No, it's airing live. You're live right now.
Oh, it's live. Oh, I'm live. Oh, thank goodness. So this makes there goes my my bit.
Sorry.
So no, you're fine. You're fine. I was trying to be dumb.
No, you're all
so
good.
this Friday I have Winner Circle Pro. It's going to be me and 9 other people, including notable names such as New Japan's DKC. You mentioned Santino Brothers. Santino Brothers is Lucas Riley. We also got people like CJ Tino, J2, just a bunch of SoCal favorites that everybody loves. They're all going to be there, and I'm going to go and whip all their asses. So then on Saturday and Sunday, I'm not wrestling, but I will be showing up at the Santino Brothers LA Rumble to go say goodbye to a very good friend who is retiring from the business. His name is Adnan. So if anyone's in the area, please come by and buy a shirt of his, and say your farewells, because he's leaving the wrestling industry. And then on Sunday, I will be visiting my old stomping grounds of EWF. They will be doing a show in Banning that I'll be supporting because I'm from the area. But Peter Avalon is going to be there, so that's be fun. The next show I'll be on will be August 3rd for Dream Slam. It's going to be me and my very good friend Chris Nasty, Bad Meets Nasty, versus the Wrestle Buddies of Alan Breeze and Can't Stop Jamal from Las Vegas. Should be a fun one. Should be a very good one. And I have more shows scattered throughout all of August and September. Speaking of September, just got revealed that I will be in Arizona September 7th for Wrestle Drag. So that's going to be a great time. Wrestle Drag is always a fantastic show. It's always, the promotion is fantastic. It's ran by R3 and R3 from Championship Wrestling, yes?
Yeah. Championship Wrestling from Arizona. Yeah, R3. Never been a guest, but I'm very familiar with his work.
Yeah, fantastic individual, So I'm excited for that. And for any other shows and any other things on my schedule, you just got to check in with the social medias. There's a lot of things that I am keeping under wraps that will be revealed within the upcoming weeks. On top of how the way the wrestling world goes, it's ups and downs, and I'm going on a very big up right now. So just keep it locked in on all my social medias at The Only Honest John. Put that in a big old little clickable thing.
Well, like I said, the links to most of your socials are on the video description, and I'll add the YouTube channel as well. plus Pro Wrestling Tees, where you can get your official Honest John merch. Hey, man, I really want to say thanks for taking the time to be on here. I know we kind of got pushed back a couple of times. I appreciate your patience, but ultimately, I really enjoyed this conversation. Really appreciate you taking time to be on here. Is there anything else you want to plug before we call it a night?
I also have, in regards to merch, I have pictures, pins, buttons, beanies, and everything. Unfortunately, you can only get that at the moment when you see me in person at shows. So make sure to go to every single show that I do. So you can come get that fantastic Honest John merch. The beanies are absolutely amazing. And outside of that, I don't think there's anything else I really have to plug or on top of that.
Well, I always extend the invitation that you're more than welcome back anytime you do have something you want to plug. Again, thank you for spending the last hour and 20 minutes with us. I do appreciate your time, and best of luck. I can't wait to see what's next for you. I can't wait to see how high that hill goes up for you and see where you end up. And of course, when Championship Wrestling comes back into play, we'll all be tuning in to see you on that program as well.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. And, thank you for being one of the most pleasant people to talk with. Sometimes you do some of these things and it's a little too much leaning towards, okay, I'm kind of over this already. But the fact that I not only do I want to come back, I want to come back and talk about lore and the character and get deep into that. It's like, you already have me sold and everything. So thank you.
Well, cool, man. That's great, and we'll pencil that maybe later in the year and see where you're at, and see. We'll do Honest John interview part 2, Electric Boogaloo or something like that.
Part 2.
Part 2. There it is. All right, take care, John. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. Honest John, if you need him, great dude. Really appreciated his time today. And of course, we'll be back. We're always back. Tuesdays and Thursdays here on youtube.com. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. And as soon as I can click out of this and click out of that and click out of this, we're going to say goodnight. And we'll see you at the matches. Thanks for checking out the pre-party, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com. You should hit that subscribe button and join our community. I also want to remind you that we recap NWA Power every Thursday at 8 p.m. in the live stream. We try to stay social, so find us at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are